Let's think about TIA. TIA is massive and there's so many moving parts to it. But so we have solutions in both Strive and Aware to help you simplify those. So we're going to kind of break it down for you today. We're going to talk about creating the evaluation process and really making sure it's optimized to meet the needs of your staff and also your the data needed for TIA. And how also to support that evaluation process to capture the information that's needed to really get that valuable performance evaluation and growth. And then we're going to give you some tools to evaluate your effectiveness of practices through measuring alignment with student outcomes. So we have a lot to go through today. This is our run of show. We're going to kick things off with shaping your evaluation process and leave you on that good note of supporting ongoing success. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to our wonderful Shanna James, and she's going to kick us off.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. We are going to spend some time going through how, again, as Allison mentioned, how we support the TIA process with both Strive and Aware. So before I really dive into this, I want to share our overall vision here at Eduphoria of a better together solution with Aware and Strive, especially when it comes to supporting that TIA, your TIA needs. So hopefully you'll see some of that commitment today in this webinar. And as Allison mentioned, we're hoping to gather some feedback for you or from you, I guess, throughout the webinar. So we can help, it will help us kind of capture those needs that you have and kind of those like impromptu feature requests. All right. Oops. Let's see. Let's go. Okay. So pretty much if you have joined a webinar from a Strive webinar in the past, you've heard us talk about setting up your evaluation process. And this is a big key to your successful implementation with Strive and making sure you're set up for success. We've made a lot of efforts with the tools we've created throughout the years to help with that process. And it all really is around this process. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't already like revisited your evaluation process, make sure that you look through your TIA application, all the different steps that you have, make sure they're represented in the evaluation process. If you have due dates for certain things, if you have certain requirements that you need, we definitely want to make sure that they're covered in here, because this is connected to a lot of the reporting and the data out that we're going to see in Strive. So one thing I do want to add, so if you, this is a newest feature that we've added. We know that in the TIA process, there is an option for you to weight different parts of your application. So you might have teacher evaluation is a certain weight, student growth is another weight. So we realize that that is something that's a need. So we've added the ability for you to build that into your process. So now you will see on the appraisee type, when you go in to fill that evaluation process, there's a new tab called the scoring tab. And on that tab, this allows you to set those weights for your TIA report. So this is where you're going to set that up. Right now, we have the first thing you're going to do on here is you're going to select either an observation or a summative that you're using for that appraisal data. We do know that some of you use multiple documents, so you might have walkthroughs that inform, so you might use more than one document. So we are working on that solution so that your appraisal score can actually be more than just one document. So look for that to come in the future. But for now, if you have your observation or your summative, you'll select that. Then you'll add your weights to the different things. So if it's 80% for your appraisal data, 20% for student growth, you'll put those numbers here. The other, in this case, represents things that you're doing outside of Strive. Some of you might have like professional development type data that you're collecting. You might have student or parent survey data that you're collecting that you have said, this is a part, we're going to have 10% which is that other, which is going to go towards that in your application. So we include the ability for you to, it's kind of a placeholder for that percentage that you can put here. The information at this time is not put into Strive, but the calculation when you run your report is built in. So that will be there and represented. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the actual report itself. But just in your setup, just make sure that this is, that you're addressing this. So, okay. So now let's talk about student growth goals and portfolios. And this is where our first poll comes in, because I would like to ask what, in your district, what are the student growth methodologies and measurements that you're currently using most commonly? We have the options of the SLOs, portfolios, pre and post test, or any kind of value-added models. And again, this is good information for us because this helps us as we're developing the connections with Aware. Okay, I see a lot of pre-test and post-test. That's awesome. A lot of SLOs. Good. We still have some answers coming in. All right. Yeah, pre and post is quite heavy. So good news. All right. Looks like we've got some really good data here, and heavily leaning towards the pre and post test. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just end the poll, but this is really, really helpful. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So that'll be great information. Okay. So moving on.
Hannah,
Yes.
do you share the results really quick?
Oh gosh.
We have a request for that in the Q&A. And also we have a really big group with us today. So if y'all have questions, please use that Q&A feature so that we can field the questions effectively. Unfortunately, due to the size of this call, we can't unmute and have questions live. So we are asking y'all to use that Q&A feature. And then here are our results with pre-test and post-test. Out of the 69 respondents, 93% use that as their student growth methodology.
Yeah, that's very, very good information to have.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing that. And thanks for stopping me. I wasn't even.
No worries.
All right. Okay. Very good. Okay, so jumping into the student growth methodologies, regardless of your the methodology that you use, I do want to call out that teachers have the ability to create a student growth goal within Strive. And again, this is regardless of what method you're using. So teachers can go in, they can create a student growth goal just like they do their professional goal. They can add evidence. They have an approval process. And so, that's something that's built into Strive. Now, along the lines of the Better Together that we're talking about with Aware, there is a student portfolio feature that's within Aware that connects directly to Strive. So from within that Strive student growth goal, you can either attach an existing student portfolio or you can click create new and it will take you out into Aware. The teachers can go into Aware and they can create their student portfolio. So this is, again, the Better Together thing. So when they go into Aware to their student portfolios, the best part, I think one of the biggest benefits of using this is that it automatically connects to the rosters. You have a direct connection to the student rosters and any of the student access groups. So you can pull those in, teachers can pull those into their student portfolio very easily. So that's a huge benefit. There are two different options right now for those portfolios. One is a rubric based and the other is an assessment based, and you can add your milestones to that. A little bit closer look at the rubric based. we intentionally designed this process to match and be easily adaptable to TEA's recommended SLO process. So if you are using SLOs, you can actually use the student portfolios with that. You can build the rubric within there. You can have your well below typical, below typical, and you have all the verbiage that you use with your initial and target skill profiles. So that is one of the biggest reasons we built that rubric-based portfolio, is so it can meet those needs. The other thing that we have, and this came out, I think it was last year, is the ability to have assessment-based milestones. Now, this is huge. This is huge for you guys that are doing your pre and post test. It's huge for, if you have data imported, if you're using map data, you have district level assessments. Any of those assessments can be even teacher tests. They could be dropped into your portfolio and you can measure throughout the year. Notice on this screen, there is a part that says student growth at the very end, or at the right of the screen. And it says teachers can go in and rate exceeded growth, expected growth, did not meet. Those, we do have some district default terminology there that we have embedded, but districts can change that terminology to match whatever the needs are. So, okay, so you've got the ability to score, which is huge. The teachers can score based on whatever information is in your assessment base, or that they drop there. And that is huge, although at this point it's a little subjective. So anyway, I'm going to come back to that scoring thing, but the next thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to actually tag Allison in to talk about TEKSready and how you can use TEKSready with Aware for your assessments.
Yeah, so TEKSready is with our partners at Region 10, and it is going to be pre-built assessments that can be used for a wide range of things, but specifically for TIA. So there are some really great resources available in TEKSready that really answer the need for assessments that are targeted towards that great data pool that's needed at the end for your TIA application. So if you have questions about TEKSready, for sure, whenever you get the slides tomorrow, check out the website, but also you can request a trial subscription to check it out and like dig deeper into it. It's a very popular tool to use with our TIA districts for sure.
Yes, very popular. And I think they're continually updating. There was an update where I guess where the TIA is the ability to prevent tests from being reopened in test proctoring after a student submission. So they're realizing there are certain things that they need to cover. So they're continually making updates. So we appreciate that partnership for sure. Okay, so now we're at another point where we want to ask another poll. And this is important because many of you said you use pre and post tests. So what we want to know now is if you are using pre and post tests, we know that there are measures that you calculate that growth. So if you are, what kind of methods are you using? And I know that the TEA has put out several recommendations that they have. So there are just, the different types: graduated percent, increased model, common percent, half the gap, individualized, quartile, quintile. So there's a lot. And then there's none of the above, right? So again, thinking in terms, as you're answering this, thinking in terms of how we can better improve that assessment portfolio, or in terms of how can we build in some of those calculations. If we're kind of exploring that, how could that be helpful for you? So gathering this information again is somewhat a feature request. I guess that this will help us, again, knowing where we need to focus to help. Okay, so still gathering that information. Um, Okay. Give you another second or two to gather this. And so far it looks like percent growth based on actual district growth data is in the lead for your measures. Okay. Well, and there also, I mean, there's also some of you are maybe still be trying to figure that out too. So, good information. Okay. What do you think, Allison? We good to share results that we have so far? We're going to try it again.
Yeah, let's try it again. All right, so in the poll. All right, let me see. Uh,
Did you click share results?
share results. Can y'all see it?
And you have to, and then you have to scroll too, I think. We'll see. Hopefully y'all can see, but we do have quite a few using percent growth based on actual district growth data. We have some that are using quartile, quintile. We have some graduated percent increase model. Okay, great. Great. Yeah. So kind of all over the place. So that's good. That's good to know. Again, this information is very helpful for us as we move forward and coming up with ways, again, that we can help you. Because right now, although a teacher can score and say a student met or didn't meet or whatever, you're still most likely having to do some of those calculations outside of Aware. So we want to figure out ways that we can help with that. So, okay, thank you again for participating with that. And then we'll move on. So again, another feature that we have that was released towards the end of the year last year in Strive is the ability to manage that student growth in Strive. So because it's such an integral part of the TIA process and teacher evaluation, we actually created a space to share, or for you guys can store your student growth in Strive, regardless of the way you do student growth. So this was really important because a lot of our reporting that we run in Strive, we're trying to use ways, and we were only using the inputs for certain things like in your summative, how you collect it, or if you're using portfolios. So this feature opens it up. So regardless of what kind of methods you're using, you can capture that in Strive in the managed student growth. So at this point, there is a district level access. Just to call this out, if the user has manage appraisal settings, they will have access to manage student growth. We are in the process of adding additional permissions, which would be for school level personnel and also appraisers. So appraisers can enter this information directly. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to do this at a district level is for the, I'll show the very final option I'll share with you. So the first option here, there's different ways, multiple ways you can get the data in there. You can actually click and type the numbers in directly based on the teacher. You can import. So if you have, if your teachers are doing those student portfolios and they're scoring it. Now, remember the teachers would put met, didn't meet, or exceeded. So what this tool does is when you click import from portfolio, it will translate into the percentages and it will put that information in there based on the population set that they have, or the amount of students and everything. So we do the calculations and we bring that into the student management table. There is, again, exploring options. We are looking at options for basically if a teacher is using a portfolio in Aware and they attach it to a student growth goal, then that information, when they score it, should just exist in this table. So again, exploring options to make it easier to get that data in and the connection from the Aware student portfolio into the management part is a big thing we're looking at. Now, the last thing, and this is one of the things that we wanted to make sure we had district level access for you to be able to do. You now can upload a spreadsheet, regardless of how you collect it, where you collect it, your student growth data. You can upload a spreadsheet into this table. And as long as it has, we have a template here where you can download the template. It's a CSV file, plug your information in and upload it, and then it will live in Strive in the student management table. So that's a huge win, I think, because again, a lot of our stuff in Strive is like points to that. Now, if you were using if you were putting that information in the summative, some of you, your appraisers were managing that in the summative, which again, that is something that we kind of looked at needing to manage it elsewhere, because there were situations where districts were needing to enter information. They were using star assessment and things like that, and that information didn't come in until after summative. So we did remove the option for them to include that information in the to add it, to enter it in the summative, but you can still display that information in the summative so that it becomes a part of that permanent record. So we do have the ability, but appraisers will not be actually plugging the numbers or capturing it in here. They'll be putting it in the student management table. So again, just to reiterate, this managed student growth section in Strive is going to be your source of truth for all your student growth data, regardless of the way you enter it here. But all of the reporting features, so when we talk about the TIA custom export, and we talk about your correlation report analysis, that information is going to come from here. And currently at the district level, they can enter it, but very soon principals, school level will be able to go in and add the information. Appraisers will be able to include that information just for the people that they appraise. So lots of options there. We're super excited about that. Okay. Any questions? I think I see like questions flying in through the Q&A and you guys are answering. I think y'all are doing awesome. Is there anything else that
Jeremy and Armando are just like aces on the on the questions. They're like moving so fast. And a lot of the questions, Armando and Jeremy are both putting links to our online help guide that walk you through a lot of these processes and elements with step-by-step and pictures. So these are amazing questions that we're getting. Make sure you're popping those into the Q&A so that so all eyes can see the question and we can get it answered. But as of right now, Armando is actually answering the question right now in the Q&A. And so we can keep going.
All right, that sounds good. And also, when you get this presentation, there are links for each of those things. There's like a little thing at the bottom. I'll show you when we get to one, and it'll have a link to those online help guides as well. So we do have them embedded in the presentation. So when you get that, you'll have those as well. Okay. So that's all student growth stuff. We're going to move on a little bit and we're going to talk about analyzing your data throughout your whole process. Okay. So data analysis in Strive. I'm not sure how many of you have been able to get in and look at the detailed analysis, but it is super powerful. I would highly recommend just going in there. I am not a data analysis nerd, but I become one when I start digging through and seeing all the things that you can do in Strive analysis. So there's just a lot of information. The thing I love about this is that the views are dynamic. You can filter and drill into, you can just kind of walk down a path. You can drill in really detailed, and then you can zoom back out. But one of the things with this is that there are so many views, you can kind of get lost. So we did add the option to save your filtered views in Strive. So much like Aware, you have the little tag there. So you can click, and once you find a view that you want to access a lot, you have a specific thing, you can click that and save that view so you can go back and access it. So it gives you the ability to name it. So I love that. Oh, and here's an example of the links to the OHG there. So we have one here on how to use saved analysis filters. So, okay. So one of the biggest things with TIA is calibration. You want to make sure that all of your appraisers have aligned on the rubric. Everybody has the same understanding. You have the same vocabulary, and everybody is calibrated. So this detailed analysis is huge in helping you look at that, and you can look at it from different lenses. So are you calibrated between your schools? And so you can filter, you can look at dimension level, you can look at domain level. And the thing I like about this too is that we've added the document column there so that you can actually see how many evaluations. So like, it's one thing when you look at like Airbnbs and you see it has 5 stars, but there's only one review. That's very different than a 5 stars and there's 300 reviews, right? So this kind of gives you the lens into that calibration process too, so you can see how many have been done at your campuses. So I think that's big to call out. You can calibrate between appraisers. So if you're at the district level, you can look at appraisers by campus. If it's just your school, principals can look at appraisers at your school. So again, the same thing, you can calibrate across the dimensions, you can change it to the domains, just different options that you have. You can look at it between subjects and your subject levels. And I highlighted the not set section here because in the evaluation templates, there is a place where you add what subject and grade level it is. And so the not set basically means there's 8 documents out there that they did not set that, that information. So you can dig into that. So the cool thing, you can click not set, it actually can take you to those so you can see which evaluations those are. So you can add that data to it. So looking at your subjects, how do we line up across our core subjects? Are they evaluating the same as maybe we are in other areas? So definitely something to take a look at. Grade levels, the same thing. You can look at the grade levels across to calibrate. Now, the thing that I'm doing here a lot is I am showing some table views, but you also have the ability to look at graph views. So in your filter options of your views, you have the ability to look at table score, table percent, or a graph percent. So as you're looking at this, you can get a quick view of, it's the same data, but you get a quick really view to see like, are there any areas? You could do this. This example here is for your dimension at the dimension level, but you can do this at appraiser level, at a school level. And let me tell you, it is powerful when you can look at a glance at a school level and you see certain schools that might stand out, that have more distinguished that have selected. So, and you can do some, again, that doesn't mean that anything's wrong, but you can dive in and do some dissecting to see, if they're like, what are the reasons? Are there valid reasons for those to be different or not calibrated as much? So, okay, and then some other examples. We have your document summary, which I've been talking about detailed analysis. The document summary is more of taking one specific document. This is great for those walkthrough analysis, looking at trends. If you have look-fors that you're really looking for, you can hone in. I would highly recommend. This is such a great visual to see where there are inadequate, or you might need to like focus on some things. So this gives you a lot of sense into where things might be that you need to focus on. So again, bring some professional learning in, have some conversations about that. So I love the document summary for that reason. Okay, now let's jump to the teacher performance and student growth. This is the correlation. This is a big thing for the TIA. And I mentioned the student growth. This is why that student growth table is so important, because we already have the evaluation data in Strive, but we didn't have the student growth data in there. And how can we align those two and make sure that there's a good correlation? And so this was something that we wanted to make sure we were approaching and able to do for you. So that's one of the things, that student growth table that you'll put in there is very, very important. So again, so many things I could say about this, being able to, each one of these dots represents a teacher. And although I'm not active in the actual in the site right now, but when I float over that, it will display the teacher. It'll display their any kind of information that, like, it'll give you a little snapshot of the evaluation scores, the student growth scores. You can go all the way to drill in to look at the document, the evaluation document. That's another thing to mention too about detailed analysis when you're looking through calibration. It takes you all the way down to the document level where you can see the comments that the appraiser made for why they justified a certain score. So again, I can't say enough about it. I love it. So, okay. Now let's talk about your TIA data and making sure that you're set up to have your TIA data ready to submit it to Texas Tech. So all we've been talking about now is preparing it, getting there. I mean, or, you know, doing the process, but now how do we make sure we're prepared to submit that data to Texas Tech? So one of the things that, that we do not house, there's a lot of information that's more of the HR type information that we do not typically house in Strive or Aware or in Eduphoria in general. But we did, understanding that there's a lot of hoops and things that you have to jump through trying to get that TIA report together before you submit it. We allow an option now for you in the management feature to go in and import that data. So you could just import a file with all that data. Once you import that data, it will actually kind of lock that information so that teachers can't go in and change the, you know, information in there. So you can import that. There's a link there for how to do that, but we have a template, and you basically just take all of that information and import that, and then it will grab that in their portfolio. So when we run the custom TIA report, it's going to grab any of this information and bring it in. So this is just hopefully helps you guys keep from having to jump through so many hoops to merge that data after the fact. So that is an option. So, okay. I feel like I'm talking 1,000 miles an hour, but I just wanted to make sure I
You're
could.
doing so great, and we're getting some really great questions. And so thank you so much, everyone, for these great questions, because they're really informing how we support y'all. And so be sure to put them into the Q&A window, and we will answer them. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So very good. Thank you. So going back to, again, we're preparing that TIA report. Remember at the beginning, we talked about that scoring tab that lives with, so if your appraisal administrator will go to the management section and click on appraisee types, you'll select your appraisee type. And when you select that appraisee type, there's going to be a scoring tab. So we want to make sure that you go in and set up your scoring, which document you're using, and then what weights those account for in that report. So you're going to want to make sure that's set up. And then after that, you will now see we have a new report. And this is the reason we're calling it custom TIA report. We left the original. We did have we have a legacy. We're calling it legacy TIA report. That one's still there. You can still use that one. But this custom TIA report is the one that you will use for if you have the custom scoring formula. So when you click on custom TIA report and you choose your calendar year, your appraisee type, if you don't, it'll just give you a reminder. If you don't have that scoring formula set up on your appraisee type, it's going to say you need to make sure this is set up. So contact your administrator. So again, that's super important for that TIA report. But you run that, and then after you set that up, you'll select your appraisee type. You can see a verification of the percentages And these little eyes here, when you float over them, it'll give you a little bit more detailed about that information and where that information's coming from. But anyway, so this is what you get. You download the report and it will export. It'll come out as a spreadsheet. I want to reiterate again, if you have other and you're using an other, and it's a 10% percentage or whatever, once you'll go ahead and download your report, you'll get that spreadsheet. And then after you get that spreadsheet, you need to merge or copy and paste that data into that column. And then once you do that and you copy and paste it into the column, then the formula will kick in and then it will actually work and give you the scores. So that right now, again, we would love to be able to capture some more of that data within Strive, and future, hopefully we can do that. But for now, this at least gives you that option. It'll still do all the calculations for you, but you do have to bring that information in after the fact. So, okay, that was a lot. I talked really fast. I'm glad all the little help links are in there. So good. The next thing I want to do is we have a great team. Paige is not with us today. She's usually doing these webinars. We have a great team of people here at Eduphoria that are like attending information about TIA. We're attending monthly meetings, learning all we can about TIA needs, but you guys are the best that can tell us what your needs are and how we can support you. So our final poll, our final question that we have today is, how can we, or what are some other things? And it's kind of an open-ended, if you want to just type it in and answer. The nice thing about this is that we can download and capture this data. So this is like your open feature request. Consider if you have anything that you're like, you know what, I really wish we could do this. This would be so helpful if we could do this. Hopefully it's a short answer. So hopefully we probably won't, I don't know if we'll be able to share it or not, but hopefully we can get some answers in here. Again, this is your time to throw in, like, I really wish XYZ. So, because we're going to take this into consideration as we continue to bring Strive and Aware, that better together thing to support you guys. Anything that you can add here will be super helpful. So, Allison, I don't know if you want to close, like if we want to try to kind of leave this open, and I don't know, can we do that? Leave it open?
Yeah, I can leave it open. I'm getting a question about popping it up again. I think if you click on, if y'all have the option to click polls and quizzes, it would be there for y'all, but I cannot make it regenerate back on your screen. I'm so sorry. So as y'all are answering that question, and popping in any final questions you have in the Q&A, we invite you to add those final questions that may have bubbled up. But I do want to tell y'all something so exciting. We are so excited because we have an announcement of a new service we are offering today. As we're talking about how to support you, how Eduphoria can support you in your TIA journey, we are offering a TIA project management. So, can we switch to the next slide?
Oh, yes.
No worries.
Sorry.
All right. No, you're fine. You're fine. And so we are talking about our project manager or TIA. And so what this is just like how here at Eduphoria, we have been able to really study this process, as Shannon was saying. We're in those meetings, we're listening to feedback, and we want to make sure that we are able to support the great things that are happening in your classroom. So we're excited to announce this new service. It's built in partnership with TIA experts. This program provides you with goal setting and systems needed to implement and grow your TIA program confidently. Our experts, who are really wonderful individuals, bring profound experiences with Strive combined with program evaluation and systems architecture through work with the Holdsworth Center. So we're expanding this offering for the 24-25 school year, and we want to partner with you and your teams to ask, how are my technology systems making practice possible? So whether you're in the pre-application stages, preparing for your first or your next data submission, or looking to expand your TIA program across your district, we can definitely help you. So if you're interested in this, we are going to have an interest form come out in the slides. I'm also going to pop the interest form into the chat. If you're like, oh yes, please tell me more, I want to know. So if you're interested in this project management with us, this new service we're offering with our TIA experts, it's a really elevated way of being able to make sure that your technology system through Strive and Aware and through your practices are helping you make TIA as seamless and painless as possible. So please fill out that interest form if you are interested in knowing more. Also, I wanted to let y'all know about our teacher learning courses. Most of us have already picked up with our school years have kicked off. I know on the East Coast that's a different story, but here around here our school years have started. But you may be seeing that there is a need to have a refresher from your teachers on how to do all things Aware and Strive. And so we've made that so easy for you by crafting these teacher learning courses. And the teacher learning courses are broken down into segments of information that teachers need to know to kick their year off, create their goals, get set with their assessments. In Strive, they're little small chunked videos with little knowledge checks at the end of each one. And it's just an easy way to get your teachers what they need in an asynchronous manner that may not need to be a meeting. You know what I mean? So that is also there for you in this slideshow as well. And as always, if y'all need us, please reach out, support@eduphoria.net. We are always happy to connect with y'all and answer any questions. Our tier 1 team is always ready to answer your questions. So we have, I do see a few questions in the chat, one in the chat and one in the Q&A window, and we will get those answered. But if you have nothing else, which I don't think we do, team, thank you so much to Shanna, Dr. Wagner, Armando, our whole team here at Eduphoria. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to working with you. Have a great 2024-25 school year, y'all.
Yes. And thank you so much for your participation in those polls. Appreciate it.